Welcome into the 143. This is episode 54, coming at you live.
Just after the divisional round.
We're not very happy.
Almost great weekend of games.
We had a really close, great weekend of games.
It was a rough Sunday. It was a very rough Sunday.
It's been a rough couple of days. You know, those kind of games, they don't just go away. And we were both, it was kind of like deja vu because the literal same thing happened to us last year against the 49ers, and we lost again to the 49ers. But we will get into that here in a sec. That's the main thing we have to talk about this week. Obviously, the Chiefs beat the Jags. The Eagles beat the Giants. There was no surprises there. The Bengals beat the Bills, which technically was an upset, but it really wasn't. But we'll jump into all of that after our stat of the week, brought to you by Andrews Logistics. Our stat of the week is about Dak Prescott, because who else would it be about in this very unfortunate show we're having to do? The stat is that Dak has not, this season, did not go back-to-back games without throwing a pick at all.
That's a terrible quarterback stat to have.
It is a terrible quarterback stat to have.
Well, your player of the week is the owner of the Bills and Chiefs, Joe Burrow. He threw for 242 total yards, had 2 passing touchdowns, completing 23 of his 36 passes.
I mean, he controlled the game. That's all you can ask, and he was that guy. He was Joey Shiesty. He's
just he's on another level.
He is.
I think he's pulled himself above Josh Allen and Justin Herbert.
Absolutely.
You had, I would say, arguments and disputes over who the top 5 quarterbacks are, but I think Joe Burrow is a safe 2, just
Very
because
safe 2.
he has proved time and time again that he can win in the playoffs.
Nick, you're telling me that Joe Burrow, you take him over Jalen Hurts? Is that what you're saying?
I would.
Wow. America. Let's get our facts straight about Jalen Hurts. How many passing yards did he have this week?
I believe it was not even 200.
I think he had 155.
Honestly,
that means that it wasn't Jalen Hurts that won the game.
I think Joe Burrow is a more qualified candidate, way more qualified candidate for the MVP than Jalen Hurts is.
Absolutely.
Obviously, I think it should go to Patrick Mahomes, but I frankly don't think Jalen Hurts should even be in that conversation.
Is not what our show's about, but I will say Joe Burrow has Jalen Hurts smoked in both passing yards and passing touchdowns.
Every category. And it's not because Jalen Hurts was injured. Okay, that helped a little bit, but Joe Burrow is already ahead of him.
By a lot. Mm-hmm. So the Eagles won against the Giants. Shocker. The Giants went 9-6-1 in the regular season. Okay, the Giants were not making it to the Super Bowl. We were hoping that the Giants could pull off some kind of miracle and beat the Eagles so that the Cowboys could beat the Niners and we could have a home NFC Championship game. Didn't happen, and we're about to tell you why. Before we leave the Bengals, though, we got to just say that was a good game.
A horrible defense, so no one was expecting them to win. And then
the Chiefs would have killed the Jaguars if Patrick Mahomes hadn't gotten injured.
Josh Allen has just proven to not be clutch. He is extremely talented, right? Has a great team around him, but he is not clutch. He cannot come through in the playoffs.
I think Josh Allen has now put himself in the same category as Dak Prescott. Now, I would take Josh Allen over Dak Prescott, but when it comes to playoffs, they can't make it past the divisional round.
So I've heard some comparisons, and you can agree or disagree, but they're comparing Josh Allen to Phillip Rivers, right? And they're saying that Patrick Mahomes is Tom Brady and that Peyton Manning is Joe Burrow. What they're saying, I think those are
pretty
valid because Phillip Rivers, so much arm talent, extremely accurate, strong arm, but he just always fell short in the end, right? Mm-hmm. Had a super team at the beginning.
He did.
Had a solid defense, LaDainian Tomlinson and Antonio Gates when they were at their prime, but they always fell short in the playoffs. And then with Patrick Mahomes being like Tom Brady, he's the GOAT of his generation, right? Everybody wants to beat him, but he's always going to be the best, and he's always clutch. And then Joe Burrow is Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning was low-key Tom Brady's kryptonite. I don't know what it was, but the Manning brothers had Brady's number.
He was the quarterback in that era that had the most talent.
Absolutely.
And that's what Joe Burrow is looking like. Obviously, though, Patrick Mahomes in a different way is way more mobile than Brady, but he's definitely just as dominating.
But like in the same way for Joe Burrow, he has how Joe Burrow and Peyton Manning were still similar is the fact that they had the way less complete teams.
Yes.
Sorry defense, sorry O-line, but they still managed to win games and come through for their teams in the playoffs.
The Bengals defense did come through, though, in the Bills game. They played very well. The Bills just really didn't seem like they knew what they were doing that game. And you could just tell from the first couple of drives that it was going to be a Bengals win.
It just looked off.
But that's not what we're here to talk to you today about.
Let's go ahead and jump
jump
into the meat of the conversation.
It's not just because we like the Cowboys. All of America this week is not even talking about the upcoming games. They are all talking about the Cowboys.
And which, by the way, I think the slander is obviously it's deserved, but I think it gets taken a little bit too far for the Cowboys. I'm talking about outside looking in. I feel like as Cowboys fans, we can say whatever we want. We can rip apart the franchise because we're trying to tear it down, to build it up, and make it better, right? As fans, we're looking for success, so when we don't get that, we're unhappy, right? But then everyone else just absolutely badmouths the Cowboys, and I don't like that.
I don't either. I don't appreciate it.
We made it to the divisional round, right? While our offense put up an absolute horrid performance.
We got Steelers fans and Packers fans ripping the Cowboys right now. Y'all didn't make it to the playoffs. All right.
And yet, we still were within a touchdown to the 49ers, which, by the way, there's a solid chance that they go and win the Super Bowl. Held one of the most unstoppable offense of the last 8 weeks to 19 points.
People are saying top 10 defense of all time. Like, that's how good their defense is right now. And it is really good. But, yeah, I don't appreciate that either. But I will say we are now speaking from Cowboys fans' perspective, and everything we say here, for the next however long this show is, this is coming from the prerogative of this. We need to make our team better, and here's what I think: you cannot lose to the same team in the playoffs now twice in a row, and not let that be a wake-up call, and losing in basically the same kind of way. Down a touchdown, a shot to somehow win it, and it was just tons of errors, tons of mistakes, mental mistakes, not even physical mistakes, mental mistakes from our guys that just should make the owner and GM, Jerry Jones, say, we need to revamp this, okay? I think the biggest thing that game showed us, yes, Dak played great against Tampa. That game yesterday showed us that Dak, he's not the guy.
I'm inclined to agree because I am a very what have you done for me lately kind of person, and I think that should apply in sports. Okay, so Dak has won two playoff games, okay?
I think he's lost 4.
He put up
3.
So his rookie year, that will probably be talked about for the rest of time, right? He had one of the greatest rookie seasons for a quarterback, which he did. But what has he done for me recently? And I would like to say nothing. Yeah, he owned the NFC East, but from basically 2016 to, I guess, up until this year, the NFC East has been terrible. Now, the Eagles were good for one of those years, and that's when they went to the Super Bowl. But for the most part, the NFC East has been awful. And I understand that Dak owns that, but I feel like the sample size is too small because we're looking at a very weak division. And he has proven himself not clutch in the playoffs. He can win a lot of regular season games. I'm glad we've been 12-5 the last 2 years, but we made it just as far as the 9-7-1 Giants.
We did. It's just showing that dominating. We didn't even dominate, but dominating the regular season really doesn't mean much. The Bills did it too. You just have to have a guy that can clutch up for you in the postseason when you need it most. I mean, Dak has shown that he is really good at being, and I'll explain this, a follower rather than a leader. And what that means is basically he cannot be like Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes. Those guys lead you during the whole game to the win. Dak has to let the defense play really well. The running backs play really well. And then Dak follows with a good performance.
That's when he settles in and starts putting up
But when it's
some numbers.
when our defense is kind of they played well, but when they're struggling because they've been on the field the whole time, when Pollard breaks his leg and we don't really have a running game, it's up to Dak.
At that point, we at halftime, I'm sure they talked about it like, "Hey, Dak, this is it's your game now. Like you have to take control because your best running back is down and he's not coming back."
And it doesn't show. It's not even the way that he played physically. It's the mental errors. So you have CeeDee Lamb and T.Y. Hilton when we're on the 30-yard line, the Niners 30-yard line, both running streaks. CeeDee's covered by two guys. T.Y.'s wide open, and he threw it to CeeDee because that's his safety blanket. He made the wrong decision there. Gallup, when he had Gallup down the field, who was wide open, he beat his defender. Dak threw it to the opposite shoulder. He had to throw it inside. He threw it way outside. So Gallup couldn't make the catch.
This was in the fourth quarter. This was the second to last drive when we went 3 and out, punted it away, and then defense stopped them, and we got the ball back, and then that was the most horrific final drive I've ever seen. But
yeah, we don't need to talk about
the mental errors were so prominent, and I'm glad that you brought that up. Obviously, you cannot have 2 interceptions, and it's not like they were playing good coverage. It was poor decision making.
Threw it right to the guy.
The first one to Michael Gallup, he had no business.
There was nowhere to throw.
I understand if that's where the play is supposed to go, but if he's covered, check it down. Zeke was wide open.
Or trash it.
And then the second pick, right? CeeDee was open for about 2 seconds as soon as he turned around and was facing Dak. But then Dak holds onto it. He waits, and the defender gets a beat on it, and then Fred Warner comes up with a pick. And here's the issue that I would like to I think it starts up here.
It does.
Okay? It starts up here. And what I mean by that is, yes, we have problems here at the player level, here at the coaching level, here in the staff room level, but then it starts way up here with Jerry, and then it trickles all the way down.
It does.
Right?
It does.
So my problem is that we have a problem, and we've had a problem for the last few years, and we've done nothing about it.
Nothing has changed.
It's the offense. The offense has been...
The offense is huge problem.
Okay, we finally got a guy, Dan Quinn, that has been able to basically revamp the defense. That's been the issue for a while, right? Tony Romo was so good. Our offense was really, really good. But the problem was
the defense was
never
not
had
good.
a defense to back him up. Well, we finally revamped the defense. Well, now we don't have the offense to back it up.
And the thing about the offense is we have the weapons, but we can't.
It's just who's in the driver's seat.
And it's Kellen Moore and Dak Prescott.
Absolutely.
And I think both of them
need to be gone.
Here's what we're saying, and we will have our regular off-season Cowboys show when the season is over, where we talk about what we think needs to happen to the Cowboys. But here's what doesn't need to happen: don't touch the defense. Don't even go towards the defensive rooms. Don't go into Dan Quinn's office. Don't mess with any of that.
I understand our secondary was horrible. I understand that they weren't
horrible
all season, but they figured it out when it mattered in the playoffs.
We had rookies that stepped up that actually are kind of good.
Absolutely. Deron Bland got the call week 3 whenever Jordan Lewis goes out. We pulled up Nashawn Wright whenever
he was pretty good.
Kelvin Joseph and Anthony Brown went down. I mean, guys were figuring it out. So I agree. Do not talk to Dan, all right?
Don't talk to the defense.
Don't talk to the defense. That's not the issue, all right? I want to see Dak gone, and I want to see Kellen gone. That's the big thing.
And
you may think we're overreacting, calling for people's heads, but the problem, I would disagree, because we've seen mediocre performances for the past couple years, ultimately falling short in the playoffs 2 years in a row, and we've done nothing.
We are not the Jacksonville Jaguars, where making it to a divisional round and losing is a win. Okay, we are the Dallas Cowboys, and we expect Super Bowls. That's our level, and that's Jerry Jones's level. That's what he says. Right, so and I believe it is, because he wants to win more. I mean, he's trying now. He's doing a good job of kind of taking a little bit of a step back, letting his guys that he puts into place run the team. And what I think in all complete honesty, is you go get a head coach who knows how to lead your team, who knows how to do. I don't know what Mike McCarthy does. I still don't. I know he calls timeouts, and that's really good, but I could call timeouts. We need a guy that can get up there and not look like he doesn't know what he's talking about at the podium. We need somebody that can be the face of this team, that can lead the team, and we need a young quarterback that we can kind of mold and shape. But we cannot let this window that we have with our defense go.
I know there's a great head coach floating around out there.
Talked about him all season.
Won a Super Bowl.
He was great with Drew Brees. Drew Brees was a good quarterback, but a lot of that was Sean Payton.
I mean, he was, I would say, pretty mediocre.
He was not
at
big,
his time with the Chargers,
yeah.
But it was when he came to the Saints, right? That's whenever he finally, I would say, turned his career around. What I don't want to see is I really don't want Dak to retire a Cowboy, but that might happen, and here's why. I think Jerry is too prideful. And what I mean by that is we all know he treats his drafted players differently than his free agent players. Because when Jerry drafts you,
he does.
He keeps you. It doesn't matter that you have been declining and that your best year was 6 years ago when you were a rookie. He is too prideful to admit that he failed because he drafted this guy, gave him the job his rookie year, and then inked him to this humongous contract that he was not worth at all. And in trading him, in cutting him, and doing whatever it is you're going to do with him, right, you're admitting that you failed, and I don't think Jerry can do that.
Nope. All in all, for the Cowboys, it was a very tough loss. Like I said, we will be doing an episode in 3 or 4 weeks about just everything. It'll be just an Everything Cowboys episode. But it was a very tough loss, and it was very heartbreaking for all the fans, and I'm sure the players as well.
Before we get off, I just want to float one idea out there. So I noticed in the Bills-Bengals game that while the Bills' offense was on the sideline, Stephon Diggs was very, very frustrated with Josh Allen, and he was letting him know.
Happy. He left the game. He left the game as soon as it was over.
I was about to say, he left the locker room before the coaches even showed up. But the thing is, that sideline deal that he did, that's been happening all season. All season long. He'll be open. Josh won't throw him the ball, so he'll come over after the drive is done, and he'll basically give him an earful like, hey, I was open. So he's frustrated with the Bills right now.
And
so I'm saying maybe.
The Diggs boys playing for the same team?
Maybe. Jerry, give Stephon a call. Reunite the Diggs brothers.
I love that idea. You know, I'll go back to the quote that Nick used earlier, tons of episodes ago, that Mama Diggs breeds champions. I mean, she does, okay? Like, there's no denying the facts. Like, look at the stats. Look at the Diggs brothers. Okay, they perform. Stephon Diggs and CeeDee Lamb, because CeeDee's still on his rookie contract. If you could somehow do that, that would be amazing. That's just an idea. Obviously, I don't think that's going to happen.
I know I said last thing, but since you brought up CeeDee, I want to say last thing.
Okay.
I was very, very, I would say, pleased with this CeeDee Lamb season that I got.
He has shown that he is a number one receiver. Our number one receiver.
He was going under a lot of, I would say, criticism and scrutiny because he had taken the 88 number early in his career.
Very early.
And with Amari Cooper leaving, he was going to have to step up to be the true wide receiver one, and I would say he did that.
I agree. I mean, he was phenomenal.
Game, he still had over 100 receiving yards.
And he was double covered for a lot of the season. I mean, that shows the respect that defenses put on him, and so I was pleased as well.
They called on him, and he answered the call.
Pollard was big this season. I think we've shown that we don't need Zeke. I mean, Zeke's just too old, and I mean, it's probably time.
Get some trade value
like Nick said,
with Zeke and Dak.
I don't think we're splitting ways with McCarthy, Dak, or Zeke, or probably Kellen. So
that's just, it's so frustrating because there's problems, and we're not going to do anything about it.
Jerry says he's not okay with losing, but at the same time, he doesn't ever make the changes.
My bar is up here, right? My bar is a ring. My bar is a Super Bowl. Anything less than that is utter and complete failure. I got to be completely honest.
To lose to the same team by the same like point differential.
And obviously,
It's like we
this
had
whole
all
game
season.
was being hyped up because we lost to them last year, and then obviously it was a huge rivalry back in the '90s
Yep.
with Aikman and Steve Young, and then we just did not answer the call.
It's not really a rivalry right now when one team just gets dominated by the other, and that's happened for the last 2 years. Right now, the 49ers are a better team than us.
I mean, Kyle Shanahan has had the Cowboys number for the past 2 years, right?
Exactly.
He's figured out that we cannot defend against the run, and so once the run got going on Sunday, that's when ultimately there was the downfall of the Cowboys.
And so I think I speak for both of us when we say we do hope the Niners beat the Eagles on Sunday. It will be a good game, but as Cowboys fans, even though the Niners are a little bit a rival, not really during our lifetime, but they are a rival, but we're definitely going for the Eagles because we can't stand the Eagles because we're Cowboys fans. And
I'm
then,
rooting for the Bengals. I want a Bengals.
yeah, I was going to
Super
say the
Bowl
same
win.
thing. Bengals all the way. We want Joe to have it. If the Chiefs beat the Bengals, which honestly, with Patrick Mahomes having an ankle sprain, things are not looking great for Kansas City. But that doesn't mean he'll be fine. Like, he'll be better next week and can come out and play.
I mean, it's
really
just
well.
so easy for me to root for Joe Burrow. I mean, such a great story, right? Like, he won the Natty in college, first year in the NFL, tears his ACL, he's done for the season. Next year, answers the call, takes the playoff drought Bengals
Who were
to
not very good.
the Super Bowl, to which they almost won. They were this close to winning, and then takes them to the AFC Championship the next year, and could very well take them to another Super Bowl and to win. So I am a
He's
Joe
easy to root
Burrow
for.
fan.
But they'll be good games, and we'll be coming at you next week with a Super Bowl preview.
Absolutely.
So, looking forward to that.
So here's we like to end our shows on Under Review. I've brought to you a quote from the famous, the late, great Joe Gibbs. A winning effort begins with preparation.
It
That is
does.
the truth.
And when does the preparation for the Cowboys start? Yesterday.
Right now. Right now.
It's already started, and we need to get on it, Jerry. Clock is running.
Absolutely.
So we thank y'all for tuning in this week to this heavy-hearted, sad show we have.
So unfortunate.
Just really glad that this didn't happen on our 1-year anniversary. So they waited a week. That was sweet of them. But thank y'all for tuning in, and we will see y'all next week here on Under Review.